Well, I'm Tim Mahoney, and I put together this website and PowerPoint at the urging of some friends who I've been working with to try to make it so that important issues are no longer just getting not covered or not moving forward. And Bob Hendricks with the Sierra Club really brought to our attention recently the importance of the Inflation Reduction Act that will give us a program that we can organize on the ground and around the state in 2024 and beyond. It was signed into law. It's a 2022 federal law. And the idea that we can use it to help organize people is something I think has been really missing from the message so far, and the lack of community infrastructure we have for getting that message out. I think we need constructive, dynamic messages, and this is this website, Empowering Texas Communities, is something that could help serve this need. You know, I think that people, I have a public affairs background, and, you know, when we were trying to stop for the last 20 years, various gerrymandering efforts of the Texas House and Senate, it's just, you lose a battle and people just go back underground, not really understanding the kind of negative effect that these kinds of things have, and that they can be overcome, but it's going to take a whole bunch of additional efforts of people to make that change. The Inflation Reduction Act, I mean, it's not just next year that we can utilize it, but it's a 9-year spending bill that can, you know, right now our oil energy is about this kind of a percentage in our infrastructure. And we can certainly, you know, we're stuck with roadways as our main transportation system, especially here in Texas. And to make it so that we can use electric vehicles instead of gas powered would be a great thing to do. And I love this picture. It shows people in action, and you know, the idea that we can all join together as Rough Riders, as collaborators, to get experts so that they are available with their messaging from one place to another. And I think that, you know, if you look at Texas, 254 counties, you're just left with this notion. It just seems so pretty and so distant. And on the other hand, if the comptroller's office has divided Texas into these 12 regions, and, you know, in a lot of ways, it just doesn't make sense because there's different populations from one to the other, but it still gets some, each has a major city, and it's kind of surrounded in a regional area. And we could at least start using this as a way to grow out and grow up from neighborhoods to counties to regions, and also the statewide effort to bring in resources. I think that it's important to understand that if we can collaborate from one region to another, we can start seeing how we can become better organized. That it's possible to actually have empowerment. And right now, people have been so locked out of forming state policy, that it's going to take success that builds on success. And that success is really, that information needs to be out in the community where public affairs and analysis needs to be oriented. You know, in order to have better education, you have to make it so that you're getting adequate funding and that the personnel in school districts are being adequately supported. I mean, it's just, we're just being attacked almost on every end. And yet yesterday I was down at the Capitol when they were trying to boot vouchers. And one of the lead organizers for the, I think it was public school policy group, said, you know, this is all great, and thanks for coming out, but it's going to take working in every precinct in the state to get a change. And I think, you know, rather than looking at us as common human beings, we just compartmentalized ourselves so that it's hard to find what we have in common. And you know, a lot of Texans, new Texans are coming in from California. So I mean, it's just and Texas is, I think, scheduled to be one of the fastest growing, and maybe even the largest state within the next 5+ years in terms of population. So I think this, we'll go ahead and take a quick look at the website. And so it has speaking truth to power, about building Texas communities, and there's 12 state regions. And here's a place where we could start putting data using statewide resources, examples of community projects. And I put this a panel discussion of IH-35 development in Austin from a recent panel presentation at the Northeast Travis County Democrats. And here's Bob Hendrick's slideshow that he did for 9/17. I also have a presentation he did to Tara that we'll put up here. But, you know, to get data here would be important, you know, where we could go ahead and say this is the capital area. And here we have people for local Travis County organizations, the county party chair, and, you know, emails that we could use for these individuals. And so, but, you know, it costs, it takes some resources to get this data to be updated. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we are, that we're not able to sustain ourselves. It takes some resources, but, you know, we really don't have any. And the collaboration is really, I think, a new idea in politics. It tends to be, you know, winner take all. And from the population perspective, that means that when you're buying results, we're just not getting any successes. It just keeps, if you lose a battle, it's not just losing the war, you're losing the opportunity to grow and build power. So, you know, the idea of fairness for the average citizen, spending Texas resources that are important to Texans, and having a robust, secure, and weatherized power grid, and education being one of the major things that we need to get back. And there's nowhere to go but up, especially in that area. So, you know, in terms of projecting for the movements and the IRA, there's a big goal for trying to get things done for 2030. That's 2030 down here. And the point of it is that to get this to be, that kind of a timeline, we have to look at from a marketing perspective, technology is getting in this early adopters and innovators area. And that's why it's important to really start building this community-based interactive networking system. Because we have to get this. This is 2030 out here, and we're not. We don't have the platform to be able to accelerate that. Smartphones is an example of something where it took off and people used it. And so a website like this is more than a list of pages. We need to set up volunteer committees in every region of the state, and the regional committees will work with county committees and communities, neighborhoods, and precincts to build the early adopter accelerating learning curve. And it's not that we go out and mechanically say, okay, this is where we are in Region 6, and this is where we are in Region 2. Let's build it up. It has to be where you're giving people the opportunity to really get an opportunity to participate. And so we have to find a way for positive messages and measurements to be happening, and not to just live in this kind of world where we say, well, they did it to us, so let's do it to them. We just don't have enough resources to do anything to anybody. So building a new power paradigm of common cause is something that we really need to do. This kind of notion of square deal squared, coming out of the Roosevelt notion, who started his Rough Riders in San Antonio. And get the idea that we are trying to find a way to build resources for Texans is, from the last 4 years, it's just been horrible. And so to find common cause, we need to really work together. And I think this kind of a website will be a way to do it. Now the governor is having a special session for using public monies to pay for private education. I really don't understand what the motivation is. I mean, it's really just self-destructive from a community standpoint. Now, I think the Inflation Reduction Act has a lot of tax credits and rebates, and how that all fits in an organized plan is something that, working with people like Bob Hendricks is something that we can get out to people. But, it's a very novel system, but it's also complex in how it has the best utility for people in neighborhoods is something that we need to get out to so people can really take advantage of it. The energy and the IRA covers almost all of our lifestyles, from electricity, weatherization, and different types of systems that we use. Electric panels and wiring. I was talking to somebody who was remodeling their home, and this year it was going to be a lot more expensive than probably next year with getting systems in that make sense, heat pumps instead of air conditioning and heating. So, one system that will work on both notions of cooling and heating. Energy efficient projects that are, some are rebate only, and some are more useful for lower income, and some are more useful for higher income. But I think one of the major things that we're going to see is the electric vehicle tax credit. I've heard some people are going ahead and using this to, the dealers are going to work it into their prices so that people don't have to make the application for the tax credit. The dealer will do it for them. So I think that the Texas is going to be able to have a lot of access to accelerating the learning curve of these kinds of products. And I think if some of them will be really available beginning next year. And solar energy, this is one of the great places that there's going to be for, for building collaboration. People can actually come together as neighborhoods and buy battery storage so that they can help insulate themselves from the inevitable power blackouts in Texas, and also be an energy source for the city. And I think Austin has really taken a hold of this more than most places. But the idea of using citizens' rooftops as an energy source better than any nuclear power plant could ever have been. So, this is at the local level, just telling people that they can build their own neighborhood battery storage systems would be, a good thing for building collective community action. And of course, I want to just thank Bob Hendricks for inspiring a lot of us to get this kind of information together. And what I see a need for focusing on is really building up data that has building access between citizens, neighborhoods, wherever they live. And that's kind of where we are in this presentation. So is there any discussion that we want to have?
Tim, I like the idea of kind of filtering all that information about rebates and what's available out there, particularly Texas, because I'm not convinced that Texas is going to buy into every one of the opportunities. I'm just a little nervous about that. That 100% of the rebates and or tax credits are going to be available to Texans. And I'd like to, in one spot, be able to outline all that stuff. I'd like to put it in a neighborhood newsletter that this is what's available, without just kind of trying to simplify it for people without having to send them to, whitehouse.gov for information, Yeah.
Yeah, and that it doesn't do us any good for really amplifying community infrastructure.
Right.
I think that Bob has kind of worked out a lot of that as to how we can bring it up, but I'm not sure that there's really a good path for how we program this information. As a lot of it is, I think Bob kind of embarrassed a lot of cities to make application for some of this money this past summer, because a lot of it's just grants that they just ask for, very simple kinds of things. And I think that I think you just go ahead and start getting people so they know that cities can get this and that they start doing their own little marketing to make it happen. Tell the city, this is what you want to do. The county, this is what you can do to help your citizens get resources. So it's that kind of thing that the IRA is going to give us some assistance for helping build communities. And if we don't do it, I'm afraid that just talking about issues is not going to be the same as building the power of collaboration.
No, I agree. I'm in San Antonio, and I believe that that the city, San Antonio, did jump on some grant opportunities, and I'm even in a collaborative where city people are involved, and I'm not absolutely aware of a dollar amount and how that's being allocated in San Antonio. So I don't know how the general public can possibly know.
Well, yeah, and so let me go ahead and I'm going to be using this as this recording as something to get people so that they can hopefully start more talking about this more. It's hard to catch people's attention, and so I just think it's real important that we find power in collaboration and not just merely domination. And I think that the IRA is going to be some big money. I mean, they could not just luckily got that passed, and there's not anything going on like that now at either the state house or at the federal level.
Right.
So with that, we'll go ahead and I'll stop the recording.